Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, August 10th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect sunny skies and a high of about 100 in San Antonio today. The Spurs kept their playoff hopes alive yesterday by defeating New Orleans, but lost rising star Derek White to a knee injury. For more on the Spurs' playoff chances, check out our most recent episode of our Spurs Insider podcast. H-E-B lifted the purchasing limits on toilet paper again, but items like brisket, paper towels, hand soap and sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, and more continue to be limited. If you're able to stock up on brisket, be it from H-E-B or someplace else, there's a good chance you'll have some leftovers. Keep an eye out for some recipes you can make with leftover brisket from our taste team later today. And now let's move on to the top headlines for the day. Since he took office in 2017, President Donald Trump has set aside $15 billion for 738 miles of walls and fencing on the 2,000-mile border, with money coming in from Homeland Security, the Defense Department, and the Treasury Forfeiture Fund. The federal government has completed 260 miles of replacement and secondary walls, but only 5 new miles of the 30-foot-high steel bollard fencing where none existed before, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection's data obtained by the Express News. Sylvia Foster Frau has an update on the border wall project as pressures of the 2020 election contend with realities of the coronavirus pandemic. Bexar County Civil District Court judges have been conducting hearings via video conferencing for several months now, successfully moving cases forward in a complicated, often distressing COVID-19 world. So court officials and visitors alike were startled when 7 separate hearings were suddenly Zoom-bombed this week with profanities, sexual images, and a potential security threat. The perpetrator was quickly quashed, but it was disturbing. Elizabeth Zavala explains why such an attack isn't unprecedented and what consequences a perpetrator faces. Countless parents across San Antonio are in the same boat as the new school year dawns and the choice becomes stark. Send your children back to school and hope for the best, or keep them home and continue the challenge of remote instruction. It's an excruciating dilemma, one that pits the parental urge for safety against the child's need for teacher-led learning and peer interaction. It's not just parents of school-aged children who are caught in the conundrum either. Melissa Fletcher-Stolce heard from parents in different situations about the choices they're making and why they're making them. When 2020 began, Mayor Ron Nirenberg was determined to use millions in sales tax dollars to expand San Antonio's public transit system. He would need voter approval to do it and was methodically gearing up a major campaign to win that support. Then, the coronavirus pandemic hit. Hundreds of thousands of residents lost their jobs. Families sat in their cars in miles-long lines to receive free groceries from the San Antonio Food Bank, an image of desperation that shot across the country and haunted the mayor. Now, Nirenberg has a different legacy project in mind. Joshua Fechter looks closer at the mayor's economic recovery plan in his latest article. To keep our readers up to date on the path of COVID-19, the Express News has built a dashboard of interactive graphics showing the spread of the virus in the San Antonio area, in Texas as a whole, and across the United States. We've also created an interactive map of San Antonio for COVID-19 testing sites that don't require a doctor's referral. You can find a link to the dashboard and the interactive map in this episode's description. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside your Express News subscription. "13 more people have died of COVID-19 in Bexar County, a tally that includes lives lost over the last month and that brings the death toll since the start of the pandemic to 445, the Metropolitan Health District reported on Sunday. San Antonio police said Friday they believe Army Staff Sergeant Jared Esquivel Harless and his wife Cheryl murdered their 4 young children and killed themselves 2 months ago. Questions remain, but stress was a driver in the deaths, police said. School buildings should be off limits to students, except for kids who most need personal instruction, while the coronavirus is spreading at its current pace in Bexar County, according to guidelines from Medical Director of the SA Metropolitan Health District. Several parents and teachers expressed concerns to Comal ISD's school board about plans to welcome students back to campus on August 25th, but board leaders have reported that student enrollment is up. With 71 homicides in the first 6 months of 2020, San Antonio is on track to have one of its deadliest years in nearly 3 decades, a San Antonio Express News analysis found. We sat down with 3 San Antonio City Council members, Shirley Gonzalez, Manny Palais, and Clayton Perry, to talk about how they've managed to connect with the public and press the flesh virtually during the pandemic. LULAC District 15 of San Antonio and the San Antonio-Bexar County Complete Count Committee, working with the Census Bureau, held a car caravan on the east side on Saturday to let people know that time is running out to return census forms. As many as 40,000 families could get a new economic start through retraining and/or additional education over the next 4 years under a newly unveiled economic recovery plan, writes Mayor Ron Nirenberg. The Express News editorial board writes, quote, "We may still be more than a decade away from the opening of a museum honoring the long history and rich contribution of Latinos to the country, but we're closer than ever thanks to delayed but welcome movement in Congress." It's looking more and more like the Mid-American Conference's announcement that it won't play fall football might be the first domino in a line of them that always were bound to fall, writes sports columnist Mike Finger. This week in history, on August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered unconditionally, ending World War II. For millions of Americans, for hundreds of millions of Allied people, his surrender announcement signified victory, peace, and the eventual return of loved ones from war. To millions who sleep beneath stark white crosses, it meant their sacrifices had not been in vain, an Associated Press story reported after President Truman made an official announcement of Japan's surrender. Shooting clubs, like singing societies, were traditions that German immigrants brought to their new country. The first in Texas was established in New Braunfels in 1849. The San Antonio's Club, also known as the San Antonio Rifle Club, was founded in 1857 with Raymond Newman as a charter member. Paula Allen takes a closer look in this week's history column. Simranjeet Singh's new book will hit bookshelves this month, but has been in the making most of his life. It's the result of countless childhood visits to bookstores and libraries that ended in disappointment. Fauja Singh Keeps Going, the true story of the oldest person to ever run a marathon, will be published by Penguin Random House on August 25th. You can read more about the author and the book in Elaine Ayala's latest article. The pandemic has brought back plenty of simple activities that had been all but forgotten in our technology-soaked times, including family board game nights, voice telephone calls, and the Sunday drive following a big family dinner. Here are several scenic drives in and around San Antonio you can enjoy from the comfort of your air-conditioned vehicle. Pickle juice, more often than not, gets poured down the drain. And that's gallons of a culinary secret weapon that will never get used to its full potential. In Paul Stevens' latest Paul's Cooking Tips, you can find 3 ways to use leftover pickle juice. The season starts tomorrow in UIL's Sub-5A classifications. You can find our preview of the teams and players to watch from the smaller schools in the link in the episode's description. Goomba's Pizzeria in San Antonio still delivers classic New York-style pizza. You can read our review in our 52 Weeks of Pizza series at the link below. With the minor league baseball season canceled by the coronavirus pandemic, the Missions turned to the Texas Collegiate League to help cover their losses. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.